All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Malden School Committee. Today is Monday, October 2nd. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, November 13th here in the City Council chamber. So what we will do first is have our clerk call the roll to make sure that we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. We will also pledge allegiance to our flag and pay homage to those who are continuing to protect our country. Then we will have Ms. Spatafora introduce our interpreters for this evening, and then we will get into the agenda. Are there any questions? Hearing none, please rise. Salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. Let's have the clerk call a roll. Here.
Mr. Drummy? Here. Mr. McCarthy? Here. Ms. Spatafora? Here. Ms. Macklin?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Bernard?
Here.
Mr. Ozaiba?
Here.
Superintendent Noriega Murphy? Here.
So we have a quorum that allows us to come together this evening. Let's now first have Ms. Spatafora introduce the interpreters for tonight's meeting.
Hi, thank you. So for those at home on Zoom, we do have interpretation in, I believe, 7 of our major languages. Also, we have American Sign Language. So I'm going to activate the interpretation channels, and we should be ready to go. Thank you, interpreters, for being here today. Already activated.
All right, let's first take up the approval of minutes. That'll be the first order of business. These are from September 11th, 2023, regular session minutes. Motion by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Any questions, queries, qualms, concerns? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Battere rien, on parla delle voglio là.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms.
Mr.
Spatafora?
McCollum?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Mr.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Mr. Ozaiba?
Oui.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Ghana?
So that
Oui.
carries unanimously.
Mr. Ghana? Oui.
Haitian
Attends.
Creole
Est-ce que nous
interpreter,
avons beaucoup
we can hear you. All right.
Okay, everyone. The second item is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the school committee. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. Public comment will be open for 2 minutes. We'll let you know a few seconds before. How many seconds? 10?
Do a 30-second.
30-second countdown, okay?
We're also going to. Sorry. We're also going to be taking public comment from our Zoom, so we'll alternate between audience members and those online as well.
All right, let's open it up. Who wishes to address the school committee?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jamal, 36 Dartmouth. My name is Jamal, a resident and parent to the children of Malden, to some children who go to the Malden Public School in the system. Before I begin, I want to thank this administration for finally taking the concerns of this community seriously by preemptively sending out an email to the 8th grade families. For the record, this issue that was brought to your attention last year by several teachers on various occasions, and it was ignored. And to be on the same page, this is not a BIPOC issue as indicated in your email that was sent last night, but it affects all of our children regardless of race. However, we're grateful that we're able to flash spotlight on this issue and finally performatively changes are being made to address our concerns. I will express my thoughts regarding the portion of the Amplify curriculum with hopes that necessary reevaluation and thoughtful examination of the entire curriculum takes place. This month, 8th graders of this district are scheduled to read, internalize, analyze, and discuss content that is disturbing and considered provocative and hateful speech. As I said earlier, last year the district was made aware on several occasions by various teachers along with other people that they were problematic and uncomfortable about things that they had to speak about. These teachers were instructed and also pressured to follow the curriculum as scripted at the expense and well-being of the entire learning community. As a mayor who elected and who played a pivotal role in appointing the superintendent, and the superintendent who had the final say in this curriculum, I want to ask that either one of you take a moment to demonstrate to the teachers and students and families and community members at large how this passage should be
30
read
seconds.
in a classroom full of teens. Since no one wants to read, we will be reading in your hearing, and know that this is something you yourselves cannot even speak in public. It's uncomfortable, harmful, racially charged, and serves no probative value to our children, except to cause division, shame, and the continuation of racial divide in our country. No apologies for what is about to be read, and I hope that this experience is a sample of the discomfort you're imposing on our children, on our educators, and our families. Audience members, feel free to read along as you see fit.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, good evening.
Can you hear me? Can I?
Yes,
Okay,
yep.
because I couldn't hear him. There we go. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Hedgington, a resident and parent to children in the Malden Public School System, a former educator at the Salemwood and Fairway Schools, and the 2021 Massachusetts Teacher of the Year. I will continue where my husband left off. To use his own words further, he said, "If you give a nigger an inch, he will take an L. A nigger should know nothing but to obey his master, to do as he is told to do. Learning would spoil the best nigger in the world. Now," said he, "if you teach that nigger," speaking of myself, "how to read, there would be no keeping him. It would forever unfit him to be a slave." To take two lines from this passage, I, as a nigger who can read and is unfit to be a slave, there will be no keeping me silent. I will not stay silent as you inject unnecessary racial discomfort and confusion into our children. To add insult to this intentional injury, just last week, an educator met with a district representative about the concerns regarding this text. The response, which aligns with last night's email by the administration spokesperson, was, and I paraphrase, "Kids need to be exposed to this language repeatedly so that they know how bad it is." The district administrator was told that our children hear this language all the time. The district's response? But not the affluent Black families. I'm not going to take the time to understand the cognitive dissonance that must be present in order to make this such a statement.
30 seconds.
I will leave this to the mayor and the committee. This is just one problematic excerpt from one specific grade. A few educators have already informed me of more problematic materials and content in the younger grades. No longer will we stay idle as you dismay and are as you give triggering language to our children. The harm being placed far outweighs the benefits. Shame on this administration for not listening and taking the concerns and suggestions of our educators who are in the classroom and interact with our children on a daily basis. Again, this was not the first time that you were made aware of this, but this time you will listen to the community. And just one thing, if this administration is trying to turn this into a racial matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter, let me stop you. This intentional harm that you have scheduled is placed on our children is not only affecting Black children, but all children. I am not standing here to only defend and speak for BIPOC children and families. I stand here, we stand here to protect all children. Mayor, superintendent, and committee members, there is only one objective truth in this matter, and going against it only demonstrates your political motivation, ambitions, and your total disregard for the safety and well-being of our children. On a final note, I hope the district does not retaliate against any educator who stands for truth and for the safety of our children. We as a community demand better from those we have voted into various offices. May God bless you as you contemplate this matter and make necessary changes. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Can we just ask that you stay within the 2-minute time limit? Nope, come right ahead.
I thought it was 3, so I'll try. So my name is Shannon Della Santa. I live in Somerville, but I've been a Malden educator for 19 years. I wasn't going to speak out tonight in fear of retaliation, but like John Lewis said, get in good trouble, necessary trouble. This issue is necessary because it's so troubling. I am here to advocate for the best interests of all Malden Public School students. Malden educators' first interaction with the new admin at Central was during the annual back-to-school staff meeting, where they showed some old footage of Salemwood students addressing the school committee about the racism they had faced from some staff members. The message that was that racism will not be tolerated. It absolutely should not be tolerated, but apparently it seems tolerable when students are exposed to racism in a curriculum that has been bought and paid for by the district. Amplify is riddled with racism, sexism, and cultural bias. In order to keep this under 3 minutes, or 2, I will address one particular unit. Actually, I won't even, because Ms. Edrington did the same. But according to that unit, I did everything I could to prepare my students for what they were going to read over and over and over again. It's not just 2 paragraphs they read once. Amplify is about going deep into the text. And then there was an assessment about it, where they had to write an essay. Nothing prepared me for the gasps, the looks on their faces when they saw the illustrations, when they saw the N-word being used over and over again. The deep sighs of frustration and the watery eyes broke my heart. I welcome any administrator to come to my class to teach them multiple lessons involving the N-word themselves, so I can serve how to do it without compassion and empathy. And I'm not only here to speak about the 8th grade curriculum. I have yet to hear of any teacher who is confident in the Amplified curriculum. Even the teachers of our youngest students complain of racism and cultural bias in the content.
Time.
To summarize my point, Amplify is harmful because it makes it extremely difficult to create a culturally responsive classroom. It takes away teaching the whole child, and it takes away from making them feel safe, seen, and heard at school. It's time to start listening to the teachers who teach the students every day and who know them best, not some corporate bureaucrats who are out to make money. No amount of money is worth the harm this curriculum inflicts upon the Malden Public School children. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marsha Manong. I've just recently been made aware of this extremely offensive content being used in the 8th grade textbooks in Malden regarding American slavery. Using the word nigger every other word is extremely offensive. My question to you, Mayor, to you, the superintendent, and to you as school committee members is, what is your intent in using this offensive text in the Malden Public Schools? Is it supposed to educate? Or is it to humiliate and dehumanize the descendants of American slavery? Perhaps your intent is to glorify the slave master, for that's whose words we hear in this content. It is the slave master, in fact, of Frederick Douglass, one of the greatest American orators there is. I assure you he can speak for himself and does not need a slave master to explain to you what education can do, but it also can harm. He's quite capable of speaking for himself. When you educate on the Holocaust in school, you didn't go to the Nazis and elevate their voice. You went to the Jews.
30 seconds.
and allow their voice to educate you on the Holocaust. The history of American slavery, why do you use the voice of the slave master? The slave and the former slaves and their descendants are quite capable of lifting their own voices and speaking for ourselves. I say shame on all of you. There is no rationale for why this content should be in the Malden Public Schools at this time. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Ma, and I'm the 6th grade English Language Arts teacher at the Salem Woods School. I'm here today to bring some concerns about the mandated Amplify curriculum to the school committee that educators have been tasked to implement for the middle school students. When I first started teaching at Malden Public Schools 5 years ago, I was grateful for the autonomy that educators had and the trust that was given to us to choose some of our own teaching materials because we are professionals in the field. I participated in the curriculum design team in the summer of 2021 and was asked to create a scope and sequence of a unit for my colleagues. I spent weeks with my colleagues crafting units that provided windows and mirrors so that our students could stay engaged. The lessons reflected our student population and the content was relatable and age appropriate. Fast forward 4 months to November 2021, all of our created units were no longer going to be used. With the new administration, there was a new vision for the humanities department. An opportunity was provided for families and educators to be a part of the curriculum adoption selection committee that met weekly in the evening. I was a member of the subcommittee that was assigned to review different curricula for grade level engaging affirming texts that are reflective of our students and community. I, along with other parents, caregivers, and educators, reviewed many units from Amplify and had noted that they were not reflective in our students and community. In the grade 6 alone, most texts featured on Amplify are outdated and have Eurocentric viewpoints. Many educators, including myself, find it difficult to keep students engaged, and students find it difficult to relate. Aside from not being reflective of our student population, the select texts from Amplify are also not age appropriate in my opinion, and also in the opinion of some of my colleagues.
30 seconds.
Here are a few direct quotes from Roald Dahl's narrative, Boy, in today's 6th grade lesson. This creates a lot of discomfort, but I believe that it's necessary to read this aloud tonight. To provide context, this chapter is about Roald Dahl and his friends being caned or spanked by the headmaster because of a prank they had pulled. Begin quote, "Bend over, tighter boy, tighter. I thought how small Thwaite's bottom looked and how very tight it was. A fraction of a second later, the burning sting that flooded across my buttocks was so terrific that all I could do was gasp. And lastly, I saw the scarlet stripes and the deep blue bruising in between." End quote. If these quotes made you feel uncomfortable in any way, I ask you to please imagine teaching this to students and repeating the story at least 5 times within the school day. This chapter alone has the potential to trigger previous traumatic experiences for some of our students. I urge the district to reconsider this decision and investigate other options. For example, I believe that content from Common Lit and Newsella have stories that are appropriate and engaging for our Malden students. Both resources are also free. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Good evening, school committee. My name is Jessica Gold-Boots, and my address is 77 Exchange Street. I am a proud educator of multilingual learners and the vice president of the Malden Education Association. I am here to uplift the voices of Jennifer Hedrington and the Malden caregivers and educators who have shared their concerns tonight in regards to the Amplify curriculum. When parents and caregivers from historically marginalized backgrounds and educational professionals have concerns about a text, it is our responsibility as a community to respond to these concerns rapidly with sensitivity and a plan, not just rhetoric. I can additionally shed some light in a professional way on issues with diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Amplify curriculum. During the 2020 to 2021 school year, I was invited by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to rate Amplify as a curate panelist. Curate stands for Curriculum Ratings by Teachers and Educators Across the Commonwealth, are asked to evaluate curriculum per the Massachusetts frameworks. Several teachers from the Malden community, including myself, have had the honor of serving the Commonwealth, fellow educators, and students as panelists for Curate. Although the curriculum of Amplify did obtain high marks in terms of rigor, it is notable that for our group, in every single Massachusetts frameworks category that touches on diversity, equity, and inclusion, nearly every panelist rated the Amplify curriculum as needs improvement. I can attest to this concern as a panelist. Although texts were certainly complex, many were very dry and about topics that honestly have very little hope of engaging young people. Additionally, as Ms. Hedrington, her husband, and some other educators have attested, some texts are included with blatant disregard for the cultural sensitivity needed in our community to navigate these incredibly difficult topics. I plan to share the panel ratings on these categories with the school committee members upon conclusion of this meeting.
30 seconds.
Children of Malden deserve an engaging grade-level curriculum. They also deserve the mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors that a truly diverse selection of texts can provide. One final concern. Our newcomer multilingual learners are left in the dust when we do not provide curriculum that is at their zone of proximal development. When EL teachers around the district are directed to only teach Amplify with curriculum and not supplement for newcomers, we are depriving multilingual learners of meaningful opportunities to develop and acquire language. Newcomers need challenge, yet challenge looks different when one is at the initial stages of learning a new language. I believe that the insistence on fidelity to Amplify and Amplify alone is a potential civil rights issue for our multilingual learners. I am reminded of the Department of Justice investigation of the Boston Public Schools for failing to provide multilingual learners with the true staffing and supports they need to rapidly acquire academic language. Amplify may be a well-rated curriculum, but it's not a newcomer's curriculum. So for the topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion and multilingual learners, we have work to do with Amplify. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Just ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Millett, and I live in Medford, and my address is 59 Pleasant Street, and I teach at the Forestdale. I teach integrated kindergarten. I just wanted to come up and say I've never really spoken at school committee aside from presenting, but I think it's important to shed Amplify in a different light. I teach special education, so I have 7 students on IEPs out of 16. So I try to, every night, go home, differentiate my lessons, take different IEP goals, and put them into the Amplify slides. And what I'm getting as feedback is that's not allowed, and that I only have to show slides from Amplify, and that I have to show the flip book. So I am trying like every night to create a least restrictive environment the next day, whether it's rhyming, I can do the rhyming words versus what the quote unquote exit ticket is. So I'm trying to include all of my students during whole group and during small group, but I think it's also important that teachers need to be unique and need to reach their students or the students in front of them, whether that be special ed, integrated, inclusion, or ILP. I think you can reach the students different ways. Yes, we can try to fix the text and everything, but we also need to realize that we're not reaching all of our special ed students at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comment remains open. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. As you know, my name is Deb Gisbaldo, and I'm president of the Malden Education Association. I'm here tonight, like so many others, because there's very valid concerns that have been voiced regarding excerpts from the Amplify curriculum, as well as concerns with the curriculum itself. I want to be clear in saying that I firmly believe that accurate history should be taught and the ugly parts of history should not be erased or hidden. Those parts of history need to be confronted head on. That said, we have a commitment as educators and as humans to listen to the voices of parents and caregivers as well as educators when they are telling us that something may be harmful, inappropriate, or potentially trauma-inducing for students. As a white educator with a significant amount of privilege, it is my responsibility to stop and listen when I'm hearing that any students, educators, and families from historically marginalized groups are being harmed. What I'm hearing from educators in several grade levels is a great deal of the excerpts in Amplify are racially insensitive, age inappropriate, and irrelevant due to excerpts being taken completely out of context. The Amplify curriculum actually widens the opportunity gap instead of closing it, and you're probably wondering, how does it do that since it promises things like increased standardized test scores? The Amplify curriculum doesn't actually allow students to ever complete an entire book. The curriculum is entirely excerpt-based with excerpts read out of context, out of place, and for the mere purpose of cranking out testing machines. This type of curriculum is designed to move districts toward totally scripted instruction that strips educators of their creativity and of professional autonomy in the classroom. Teaching and learning is more than preparing students to take a standardized test. Our educators and students are far more than test scores. They are human beings who are educating younger human beings and trying to help lead those younger human beings down the path of becoming inquisitive, lifelong learners, not lifelong test takers who have only ever had access to canned, scripted curriculum that was originally funded by Rupert Murdoch, just saying. Our English language level 1 teachers in the district since last year have been given directives from central office to teach this curriculum with, quote, fidelity and with no modifications or scaffolds whatsoever. I think this is something the district would be concerned about, considering so many people in central office came from Boston Public Schools, which is party to an English learner settlement agreement with the federal justice and education departments, as a result of an investigation that found the district was violating students' civil rights by failing to provide them with specialized instruction. Again, there's that opportunity gap. There's also issues with access for kids in ILP classes, kids at the early childhood level. I could go on, but somehow we went from having 3 minutes to 2. The use of this curriculum is not good for our students.
You've exceeded the 3. Don't worry about that.
In fact, it's so bad that even Rupert Murdoch ditched it. It's so bad that it has bipartisan criticism across the country, and that speaks volumes. Let's actually think about good instruction, good curriculum, trauma-informed teaching, and maybe we de-amplify, amplify.
Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Just ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Michael Zimba. I live here in Malden at 19 Washington Street. I would just like to share how Amplify has presented in my classroom. I'm a RISE teacher here in Malden Public Schools at Salem Wood School, and my classroom is a behavioral intervention classroom as well as a therapeutic environment. And I work with children whose behaviors can be unpredictable. We call them unexpected behaviors. It's very important that I preview all of the things I put in front of them before I put it in front of them in order to minimize unexpected reactions and keep the learning environment pushing forward. Some of the things that you've heard today would not work in my classroom, and I've had to stop lessons because of how they react to the content. This year, while an 8th grade learner was practicing vocabulary in the vocabulary app, he was learning the word issue. And the word issue was given the definition or synonym of problem. And it was used in the sentence, "You are an issue." In 6th grade, I have a learner reading from Roald Dahl about Mrs. Pratchett and the candy shop. And there's a question about how would you characterize Mrs. Pratchett? And the only thing he could tell me was that Mrs. Pratchett was mean. And so what I'm seeing in the curriculum in my classroom is that there are some very negative things that I'm trying to get my learners to think out of. I want them to think more positively. I want to build their outlook so that they can be curious in the future, as one of the previous speakers has mentioned, is the purpose of education. And that's what Desi says, we are building our learners to be lifelong learners and curious. So I just wanted to share that because in my classroom where I have children who have behavioral interventions, this is what I see.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Thank you.
All right, hearing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. We're going to briefly recess for a second as we have our technical difficulties.
Thank you. Bella, I'm going to fix the issues we're having with ASL and Haitian Creole, so just bear with us for 2 seconds. Thank you. She sent me a message and Amanda, if I lose you, please try to come back on with the link that was sent to you. Thank you.
Is she still on panelists? Amanda, she's still there.
But that wasn't Amanda. That was,
No, that was Amanda. In the pop-out window?
was Amanda popped out?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
So-
so blind right now.
So Amanda ASL right in the middle there.
Okay.
If you three dots her, you should be able to allow to multi-pin. She should have showed up. Because she's on the participants tab.
Yeah. Wait, she just jumped. Hold on. Wait. Is that Amanda?
Where did she go? She's not even on the screen. Oh, come on.
Okay, the school committee is back. We'll now get to the agenda. Item number 3, superintendent's report. This will be an update on district updates and highlights.
She's doing it.
Oh, there it is. I am so blind.
All right. You good? Okay. Hi, good evening. Thank you for all the people that came to speak. We are going to address some of the issues that you have. We are going to go back to the team and revamp some of your concerns. So thank you for coming tonight. With the report, today we have different things. We're going to go over events, then the district enrollment, historical and content, current. We are going to look at the enrollment with the tentative maximum enrollments. We are going to give some of the cell policy proposal and data testimonials as it was asked last month. We're going to go over the accountability for MCAS, ELA, Math and Science, and Access, and we have a wonderful video from the ELC. So with celebrations, as you can see, Malden is going to have a lot of events going on October 7th. We are going to have the Hispanic Heritage Celebrations, and we are going to have the Indigenous Peoples Day. So I hope that everybody can join us. A lot of information has been sent to all the families. We also have the information about the early release. That is to inform parents and everybody else that tomorrow, October 3rd at 11 o'clock is going to be the early dismissal time. We are going to go over the district enrollment and the tentative caps. When we say tentative caps, means because the caps, we try to keep the classroom at 22 to 26 students in the classroom. And I'm going to ask Ms. John Federico, who is the manager of the Welcome Center, to present the data, or I can just do it, don't worry. Okay. So we, every month we present the district enrollment where people can see per grade, per school, the enrollment, and this is current enrollment as of October 1st. So on October 1st, we have 6,391 students in our schools. Once again, this is going to be important too, so you can understand the next data that it comes. In here, you can see BB in kindergarten, the enrollment that we currently have. You're going to see the same thing in Fairway, Forestdale, Linden, and Salemwood. The high school, we don't have really a cap. We have to take any student that apply to our school. So the next slide is actually with the tentative caps. Once again, we try to keep the class size of 22, 26, and in some classes it's 7 according to some of the programs that we have. So you can see, and in here together, you see the current enrollment as of October 1st, and then the tentative caps that we have per student, per school. So you see BB, we have a kindergarten, we have 90 students currently, but we have a space for 100. Once again, we are trying to keep the class low, and if we had to increase the enrollment, we would have to get new teachers to support. So right now, the maximum that we have as a district in the cap for BB is 950 students. We have 904. At Fairway, we can go to a cap of 950. We have 911. At Forestdale, we have a cap of 620 because it's a smaller school and the structure is not the same as the other big schools. Right now, we have 548 students. At Linden, the capacity of the building is 950, but we have 823. So for the families who are here in this, most of the time when they are classes or enrollment that is going to be capped, that means that we go to the maximum. We will be looking for the nearest school that is 1.5 miles or no more than 2 miles away from the houses. So sometimes people want the school closer to the home, but if that school doesn't have a space, we have to move to the next school. We also have Salemwood. The caps for, according to the staffing that we have, is 1,161. And we have 958 students. That capacity of the building, the capacity of the building is actually larger than that, but at this moment, that's what we have. This is the enrollment according to the staffing. Thank you. The cell phone policy for K-8, we have a current policy, and I know we are going to have a meeting about this, is that there is a proposal, and also with the support of all the principals, to see if we can get the K-8 students to give the phone to the teacher and put them in a hotel phone or to put them in the lockers. One of the things that I know Mr. McCarthy asked is, what is the data, why are we doing this? And DESI and actually around the state is supporting that the phone shouldn't be in the classroom. It creates a lot of disruption for students, especially when people are trying to teach and they are anxious to find out what is in their phone. So you can read all of this. It's a lot of suggestions from medical perspective and also on how it affects the students. It creates a lot of anxiety for students to know what is going on in their lives in your phones. So therefore, that is the proposal that we have. We also have, next slide, messages from our school leaders about how it creates a distraction in the learning environment. We do know that a lot of students have cells because of emergencies and everything, but we love to make sure that our students focus in academics and they don't have to worry so much about text messages or what is going on with TikTok or anything like that in the classroom. We want to make sure they're paying attention in the classroom. There's a picture of one of the hotel cells that we have in schools. Not every single school has it yet, but that is something that we would like to get for every single classroom. Once again, we know that a lot of districts, a lot of states are asking for these cells not to be in the classroom because they are really a big distraction for our students. And we are asking for this policy only from K to 8, not at this high school level. Now we are going to have the conversation about the accountability report, and that is going to be given by Pamela Stasinski, who is the data analyst of the district.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The accountability results for 2023 have been recently publicly released. And before we go into the results for Malden, I want to just share a little bit about what the system is and how to interpret the results. One thing is, because of the pandemic, the administration of the MCAS was disrupted, to say the least. You can see here the last year, we did have a full administration in 2022 and also in 2023. But before that, and before the pandemic, 2019 was the year that we had the full administration. That's why in certain parts of the accountability system, we're actually looking at comparing back to 2019 or getting back to pre-pandemic levels. Next slide. One thing important to understand about the accountability system is it's based on this concept of a continuous improvement model. So they are measuring differences from year to year. They measure them whether they are statistically significant differences, but sometimes those differences, while they may be statistically significant, they are not meaningful. If you think about your favorite sports team, regardless of where that's located, in a continuous improvement model, you would be looking at their doing better every single year. So for example, one of my favorite teams in football, we would be looking at that they won more games every single year. They had fewer interceptions, they had more points, and they would measure it on a variety of indicators. And every single year, it's the idea of they are making better results on that. DESI does set annual targets. They do those thoughtfully and meaningfully using existing data and using statistics. Certain indicators are weighted more heavily. Thinking about your last class, whether it was in high school or college or middle school, your teacher probably had you do tests and quizzes and homework assignments and maybe classroom discussions or labs, and those things were weighted differently. That's the same way it is in the accountability system. There are different components to it, and they are weighted differently. Once that information is all entered into the system, there are two primary ratings that come out of that, or sort of like grades. One of them is a progress towards targets, and that's almost like getting a grade in a class, but a grade based on how did you do compared to last year. Not just how you did now, but are you doing better than you did last year? And then there's also one that's a percentile rank, and that is not just comparing your own performance to how you did last year, but it's ranking how you did compared to all the other schools in the state of Massachusetts. Next slide. So how do you earn points? In the accountability system, if
if we maintain the same results, that's 1 point out of 4 points. That's 25%. But that's for maintaining. If we go above, but we don't hit our target, 2 points. So the only way you can get 4 out of 4 points is not only do you improve over the previous year, you've improved enough that you've not only met the target, you've exceeded the target that was set by DESE, which are not wimpy targets. They are pretty rigorous targets. That's for most of the indicators. The student growth percentile is different. That is based on a scale of 0 to 100. Think of 40 to 60, you're running the Boston Marathon, you're keeping pace with your peers. Above a 60, you're pulling ahead in the marathon. Below a 40, you're falling behind in the marathon. Next slide. Here are the different indicators that DESE includes in the system. As you can see, there's achievement, growth. There's also some high school completion rates, such as 4-year graduation rates, annual dropout rates. There's an English language proficiency for our multilingual students. And then there's some also additional indicators. Chronic absenteeism. When you think about chronic absenteeism, think about golf scores. The lower, the better. And then also advanced coursework completion, which is the percentage of 11th and 12th graders that are taking AP courses or a calculus course, if that is not an AP course, but it can still be a course. And then you can see with the ratings, the grades, you can see are given based on the percentage of points. To get meeting or exceeding targets, as an overall, it has to be 75% of the points or more, based on the weighting. Next slide. So how did we stack up? So I pulled 2019 data, and as you can see, with all the green, substantially progressed towards targets because we were above 50% in all the categories, but we weren't up to what I would shade in a blue as if we were over that 75%. That's a tall order. We did have an issue at the high school with receiving focus and targeted support, and most of that support had to do with that there was one student group that did not have 95% of their students taking MCAS. That's an automatic put you in a group where you are receiving targeted support. That, I believe, was rectified pretty quickly. Now in 2023, you can see that we've got some green, but the cut between the yellow and the green is at 50. So you can see for the whole district, we were at 50. Now we're at 49, a difference in only 1 percentage point, but the cut is at the 50. And so we are, in most cases, moderate progress towards our targets, meaning we're moving in the right direction post-pandemic. We're just not quite where we were prior to the pandemic. Next slide. So what were some key takeaways? One of them is we actually had some pretty strong average growth scores at our K-8 level in both ELA and math, and I'll give you those numbers in a few moments. But we also had 3 other areas. One of them was in science, the average scale score. We had 3 student groups that exceeded the target for average scale score. We also had the percentage of students of our multilingual students at Malden High School, and you'll see some numbers there that jump dramatically. And our chronic absenteeism rate for every single school, we love those golf scores. They went down. They actually exceeded the target, and that was in every single school. Go to the next slide. We can see the numbers that support this. Here's actually some of the numbers, though, disaggregated by different student groups. And looking at the numbers from 2019, 2022, and 2023, the one thing to be careful of, I did not put numbers of the students here, and we do have, for our Pacific Islanders, our Native American, and our multiracial groups, small numbers, and typically when you have small numbers, less than 30 students, you have to be careful because that the data points are not always very stable. Changing 2 or 3 students and those numbers can really bounce around. So the interpretation of any numbers when you've got small groups of students, we have to be very careful of. but we don't want to disregard them. DESE does require there to be at least 10 students before they will report the data. Next slide. Similar slide, this is grade 10 for our English language arts, and you can see the dash there meant the number of Native American students in 2023 was less than 10. So that's why the number is not being produced. And going from 45 to 9 may not be a huge issue given the small number of students there. Next slide. Here we have grades 4 to 8, they're math, and we're talking about our student growth percentiles. And again, thinking about this, being between 40 and 60 is considered keeping pace in the Boston Marathon. We definitely want to be above 50, but 40 to 60 kind of takes into account any kind of a standard error of measurement from a statistical standpoint. And as you can see in a lot of our different student groups, we are above a 50, and as you can see, the dashes represent in those categories there were less than 10 students. Next slide. Similar slide. Again, this one's grade 10. Again, Native Americans, that category for 2023 had less than 10 students. You can see here the numbers in 2023 are not quite as strong as they were in previous years, but it was also, we have a new curriculum, and it has a very different way of teaching. And as a prior high school math teacher, I can say that a different way of teaching can be something of a shift for not only educators and students, but that doesn't mean it's a negative, but sometimes it just takes a little bit more time to kind of start seeing those results. Next slide. So when we're looking at SGP, our student growth percentile, and you can see there's the definition of it. I like the analogy of the Boston Marathon. I think most people can relate to that. We know that keeping pace in the marathon is actually a pretty rigorous task, and as you can see on this slide, that those numbers are above 50 in most cases for all of our K to 8s. Next slide. Here are the 3 different student groups that were exceeding the target in science. Students with disabilities at our K to 8 level, and at the high school level, our low-income students, and also our high-needs students. High needs is defined as if you're a member of any one of these groups, a multilingual learner from a low-income family, or students with disabilities. Any of those are clustered into the high needs category, and every single one of them exceeded the target. Next slide. Here we have the percentage of multilingual learners at the high school exceeded the target. I don't recall exactly what the target was, but I could find that out. But I am pretty sure it was not anywhere close to that 21%. So my guess is that was not just kind of getting to the target and just getting a little bit beyond. This is, they nearly doubled the percentage of multilingual learners that are making progress towards their English language proficiency. And that progress towards English language proficiency is grounded in the research literature and talking about students mastering, are they on track to master English within 6 years? Next slide. Here, as you can see, again, golf scores. We want these numbers to go down. In every single school, they exceeded the target for chronic absenteeism. Now think about this next year. When I'm up here next September, October, for us to get these kinds of numbers, if BB holds at 18.3%, they're going to get 1 point. If they drop, that is, if their golf score goes to 20%, they're going to get 0 points. So it is a rigorous system, and it's focused on the concept of continuous improvement. So just keep that in mind. Also here on the slide is how DESE defines chronic absenteeism, and it is about missing instruction. So it's not about whether the student is excused or unexcused. It's kind of like when your doctor gives you some medication, they expect you to take it as prescribed and on the dosage that is prescribed. And if you take it 4 times out of a week instead of 6 or 7, probably not going to have the impact that you want. So missed instruction, not a judgment about why a student is or is not in class, but it's the whole concept of when you're missing 18 or more school days for a student that's going the entire year, that's the equivalent of missing 1 full day every 2 weeks. Think about that as far as your job.
Let me
Next
just
slide.
add in here, this actually we want the lowest percentages, so this has to be the opposite way of what we want in everywhere. In here, we want to get to actually 2%, 1%. That is the goal. So just in case you see that why so lower than last year, because that's the goal, to go lower, so there are more students coming to school. So the more students we have in school, lower percentages are going to be there.
Next slide. There's also a lot of information on the DESE website, and one of them is some comparisons of how we are compared to the state. And as you can see, Malden is in the reddish shade, with Massachusetts being in the blue. And regardless of which grade level you're looking at or which content area you're looking at, you can see that the numbers are not radically different from the state. And we could probably even run some statistics to find out if those differences are statistically significant or if that's just noise. Next slide. Here's the math numbers. Next slide. Here's our science and engineering numbers. And if you remember at the high school at grade 10, there are 4 different science tests that can be taken. And so some districts do intro to physics, some do biology, some do chemistry. And so that's a district decision, so that kind of feeds into all that information at the high school level as well. Next slide. Here's something else that is on the DESE website. Now you'll notice this particular data is only from 2022, and that's because this portion of the DESE website has not been updated yet with the 23 data because it is so new. There is a portion of the website where you can find these results for every single school district in the entire state of Massachusetts. I don't know exactly how many there are, but there are hundreds. And one of the things is how do we make comparisons? How are we stacking up against other school districts? There's a tool called DART, D-A-R-T. It's an acronym. I don't remember exactly what it stands for. But it identifies the 10 school districts that are most like your school district on a handful of demographic indicators: size, percentage of students with disabilities, and so on. These districts listed here are the ones that DESE has selected as most like Malden compared to anyone else. And so you can see them from Barnstable to Waltham, and then they just have the bars. And as you can see, the orange bar in both cases here in grade 3 through 8 ELA and in mathematics, that we are pretty much on par with our other school districts of like demographics. Next slide. Grade 10, again, ELA and grade 10 math. Next slide. And here's, this would be grades, I believe grades 3 and 5. Science isn't in grade 3, so it'd have to be just grade 5. But I think the point is here, there are several different districts that we can look at to see how do we stack up. We can compare ourselves to any district. You could pick any district in the state that you want to compare Malden to, and we can pull the numbers. Or anyone with internet access can actually go onto the DESE website and find this information. I don't know exactly when they're going to have this update with the 2023 results. I anticipate it will be fairly soon, given that they have most of their other results already posted. Next slide. And here it is with our student growth numbers. And as you can see, same pattern. We're pretty comparable, or in some cases, when I look at it, I'm only seeing maybe one school district that has higher numbers than we have. Next slide. Grade 10 ELA doesn't show quite as rosy of a picture as some of the other slides, but I would definitely be interested in looking at these results when they are available for the 2023 data.
Thank you, Pam. And now we are going to have the access data, and Ellen Kelleher Rojas, Assistant Superintendent Multilingual Department, is going to present.
Good evening. On the left, we can see the current enrollment of MLs by school. Salem Wood and Malden High School lead with, they're very close, 387 at Salem Wood and 379. This data was pulled last week. The numbers have already changed this week because we have an ever increasing enrollment, and we are getting students every day. The Ferryway has 303, BB 274, Linden 198, Forestdale with 88. On the right, it's very interesting to me, so I thought I would add this so you could see the percentage breakdown for the home language of our students, of our ML students. Portuguese is the home language that is the majority home language of our students at 46%. It's followed by Spanish at 17.6%, then Haitian Creole at 12.5%, Chinese at 7.3%. Then there are a variety of other languages that we don't see in neighboring districts, and we have Russian, Mandarin Chinese, Nepali, and several other languages. So it is a very multilingual district. Next slide. This is our access data. The access test is an annual summative assessment for English language learners, and it's administered in January and February. DESE assigns individual progress targets, and the students, it's based on the belief that the students will increase on their access level scores a level per year, reaching English language proficiency in 6 years. So, pre-pandemic, we were at 42% in Malden. So we're not, for our access scores now, our district is making progress. Our making progress rate was 39%. We're not quite up to the 42% that we were pre-pandemic, but is a very good move forward. And what I like to do is, I didn't pull the DESE DART scores. I looked at district comparisons of our neighbors, where we see also highly concentrated areas of multilingual learners. So Malden tops the list, 39%. Then Somerville, 34%. Better than Everett, 35%. Better than Chelsea, they were at 32%. And we beat Boston, 34%. So I think this is very encouraging that we're seeing that we're moving the needle forward in our comparison with districts, and we are seeing progress. And this is another breakdown. We had, this is a breakdown of the making progress rates that were 39%, and the majority of our students demonstrating growth. We had 741 students that increased their overall composite level in the 4 domains. We're only looking at the 4 domains. And when I speak about the 4 domains, it's listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So those are the 4 domains that are tested by Access. So we had 741 students that increased their overall composite, so that means in all 4 domains, they increased. And 66 students stayed the same, which is, sometimes you plateau when you take a test. And then we had about 149 students that dropped in composite levels. And sometimes we see that when the students are in the upper grades because they may be having trouble in one of the domains. It could be reading, it could be writing, and it might bring their composite score down. But overall, I think we're on the right track. And where I'm new, I'm taking this as my baseline data, and I hope next year to bring you a big jump. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So all this information actually can be, it is accessible to everybody in the DESE website, and the information is there. We want to finish all the time celebrating a school, but before I do that, I have to say that we have an admin assistant who worked for us for 50 years, and today we were able to give her some balloons, flowers, and cake. And that's Jeannie Marcuardo from Malden High. So we want to say, Jeannie, congratulations, because she has been working for Malden for 50 years. So I just want to say congratulations to her. And we are just going to finish this with a video from ELC, and that will conclude my presentation to the school committee. No way. Okay. Yep. It was. That's okay. Let me go here. I'm not online. I'm not online. Okay. I guess we are going just to have ELC talk about it. No internet for me here. Okay, so we will play it next time, and we will send it to everybody. It's going to be published in there, so I just want to acknowledge Tamara Lawrence and the great work that she does at the ELC with all her team. Okay, go ahead. All right, you can share it because you have internet. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
All right.
So
while we're waiting for that, let's take any questions from the members on the presentation. Any questions of the members? Ms. Macklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report, Superintendent. I was wondering, I know that we hired someone for the attendance at the high school, and so I see that we've made some improvements with the chronic absenteeism, but it's still very concerning and high. And so I'm wondering what steps we're taking to further improve that. If someone's able to speak about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year we hired Julio Perez, who is the attendance officer who has been spending time in every single school, and we see the improvement of those meetings. He goes to the houses, and this year we started having meetings with the principals. Julio is spending a lot of time with principals and also making phone calls. The schools are doing great efforts to make phone calls to parents. We just don't even have a whole month of school, and they're already calling students, trying to make sure they come to school early on. With the K-8, K-4 grades is working with the parents because the students don't come to school on their own. So if they're going to be late or absent, the work is with the adults, trying to see how we can support them so they can actually bring the students to the school. This year, we're going to divide the attendance, chronic absenteeism per grade spans. And instead of doing the whole district from pre-K to 12, we are going to do it by 2 or 3 grade spans so we can monitor the attendance of the students. But once again, thanks to all the team here that were not, was not expecting them to be here, but I want to acknowledge all the principals, the hard work, the assistant principals and the schools, because they're working very hard to make sure students are in school. If they're not in school, we cannot teach them. So I want to thank you for coming. And once again, that's the difference that we started making when we say that chronic absenteeism is one of the goals, and that is to reduce it, and it's working. We just need to be more and more intentional and also to spend more time making those phone calls. But there's a whole strategy about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Mr. Bernard, followed by Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have just a few pages folded over here that I've got some questions about. The first thing that hit me was the district enrollment. I guess I'd love to go and see, just for a bit of clarification, maybe on the next time we get this, looking at the class sizes and stuff, to actually go and have a breakdown of what, per school, what the average class size might be, just so that we can get an idea. I see a lot of numbers here that kind of concern me, that looks like our schools are, and we've known this has been an issue. It was certainly an issue last year, I know at Ferryway, and we're seeing more and more of these classes where, just to pick out a number, where the 7th and 8th grade, it's 125 there, and 125 is the cap. And I'm seeing that consistently across the board on a lot of these classes. So I think we need to go and kind of keep that kind of in the back of our heads as to capacity, and maybe figuring out how we can increase capacity moving forward. But also to make sure that we're not going and losing sight of the students. And I'd love to go, like I said, I'd love to go and just see a little breakdown of what the average class size is in each of these things. My second question, so I have a statement more than a question, but onto the accountability system. So it looks like the progress towards the target is a year over year number. Do we know if there are any schools that are out there that are exceeding these numbers, or are these kind of ad hoc per district? Do we know that offhand?
Are you talking about comparing to other districts or schools within our district?
Either or.
I haven't done any comparisons across districts because the DART information is not available yet, so that would be very challenging for me to look at how other districts are doing. But are you looking at how we did compared to 2022?
That would be great. I mean, it would also be it would be handy to go and kind of look at. I know that we aggregated some of this information with the multi-language learners and compared against multiple districts at that point, and it would seem to me that if that's a grouping that we've got for that specific thing, it would kind of logically extend to other things to go and see how they're doing with their earning their points and using that as kind of a comparison right there.
So like the graph that we had for multilingual learners, that we had the 5 points?
Yeah, I would love to go and see something like that, just to give us a real baseline comparison point.
One thing Desi would say is to not put 2020 or 2021 on there because it's not a fair comparison, because it wasn't the full accountability system. But we could certainly put a point for 2019, 2022, and 2023 and give us a couple of years out, and we could actually have 5 points on there that were actually consecutive that would start to show a picture. The big thing that Desi has said is that nearly all districts during the pandemic did have a decline, and that the goal for all districts is to make sure that we can get back up to the 2019 results and then look at pushing off and getting a path forward.
Okay, and I've just got one more question, just because it hit me on the math scores when you had mentioned, it had been mentioned that, you know, we have a new curriculum there, and some of this is probably a correction. There should be a correction as we move forward. Do we anticipate that maybe if we get a report in March or April that we'll see an improvement, or do we want to keep going and doing it as a year after year? year over year?
We'll only have MCAS results once a year.
Okay.
But we will have other internal assessments that we do administer 3 times a year. And I think our Director of STEM, Doug Diaz, would probably be the best person to address that.
And I just want to remind everybody that thanks to your budget, we were able to hire a full-time math coach to support the teachers. We met with the teachers, and that's what actually they asked for. So they have this time a coach where can go and help them with the curriculum and provide support in the classroom. So just to let you know that, thank you for that support.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
So, yeah, so I was looking, and I understand we're looking at MCAS numbers, once a year testing, and our numbers are lower, and the explanation given was that, you know, it's a new curriculum, teachers are getting used to it, students are getting used to it. Will we be able to go and pull anything out, like come, you know, after, in 2024, spring, that we can go and we can see that there's going to be some kind of improvement, that we're actually moving in the right direction here?
Yes, the high school curriculum in particular is, the publisher's Carnegie, and they said that in a first-year implementation, you should expect a flat result, not a significant increase, not a significant decrease, and it was the results overall for 2023 were flat. But they said that their evidence is from other districts that the second and third year in particular, there's an increase in success on state standardized tests across the country. So I'm anticipating and optimistic that we'll be seeing that in 2024 and beyond.
Okay, excellent. I think that that's all that I've got for the time being. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Thank you. Do you have that video ready before I go to Ms. Rose Iberg, or you want me to go to?
Ready, Tamara?
I know
You
she
share
has
it?
staff
Yeah.
here, so I want to try to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Open it.
Yeah. It's not stable.
Is it in the body of the email? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. All right, over to Ms. Rose Iberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of, 2 quick points. I echo Mr. Bernard asking about some information next time on the class sizes, how we're doing. And I know that there's some folks who've let me know, like there's the capacity in classrooms in the high school are a little bit elevated over that goal class size. And I was looking at with the district enrollment, speaking of ELC, we have district enrollment with caps, but there isn't any information about how we're doing at the ELC, building capacity-wise, and I'm interested in how we're doing with that.
Yep, we'll be glad to report on that. So it's 300 students, but as you know, the enrollment in there is totally different of how it's done for the district. Going back to the class size, I had to say that Ms. Federico does an amazing job keeping track of the, trying to make sure we don't go over the maximum in the classrooms, and also that we have some subgroups that we had to have different class sizes. We will report on that next time.
Thank you, Ms. Rose Iberg. Anybody else? Gotcha. Okay. If I might, just from the chair, unless I'm seeing things, we're in the game.
We are.
I know there's always room for improvement, but
Absolutely.
I think the one statistic that jumped out to me, and this is something I had asked Pam to gather at our pre-meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, was that comparison against other like districts. And I'm happy to see that that's been provided tonight, because to me that is the real story, you know, how you compare to like districts. And I think we're in the game.
No, we are, and sadly, last time it wasn't available at that time because, as you know, DESI releases information at different stages, so we were not able to show it to you, but yeah, we are in the game, and a lot of things to work on, and going back to the curriculum is something that we're going to go back and reflect on that, because at this moment, it's not to get roadblocks is try to make sure that we actually educate our students, the educators are involved in the decision-making, and that we move forward together.
Good.
So,
I just want to thank the district. All right, very good.
no, yes.
Oh. Okay, Ms. Spatafor.
Sorry. Not really a question, I just wanted to highlight, I was really impressed with the percentage of our multilingual learners making progress towards English language proficiency was doubled and exceeding targets. So I kind of just wanted to really give a shout out to all of our L teachers and administrators out there, because I think that is phenomenal for a district that has so many L students. I think all the other questions had been asked that I had as well, but I just wanted to say that your report honestly gave me anxiety. And not in a bad way, but I think it really highlights what we discussed last month in regards to MCAS testing and the hopeful passing of the Thrive Act, because reading through this, just looking at it as a parent, this made me stressed out, like looking at target data and what our students are going through for testing, so we can get this data and hand it over to DESE. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So I guess I thank all of our teachers that have to test and teach to this test, just so we can have this data, but this is a lot. So I'm hoping that we can find other ways to measure our students in a more thoughtful way, because some of these, the indicators in regards to high school completion and chronic absenteeism, I mean, we're coming out of, I looked at the numbers, especially for chronic absenteeism, coming out of 2021, 2022, how many of our students were home 10 plus days just because of COVID alone? So, but thank you for putting this together. I think it's great for us to see. I think I'm looking at it in a whole nother manner than maybe it was intended, but I do appreciate the hard work. And again, kudos on the L students and our L educators that are really ensuring that this group of student body is improving and doing well in the district. So, thank you.
If I ask,
Thank you.
So MCAS doesn't measure all our students in the district. So therefore, we have tables already in Excel, and we want to do it in a more frequent way so we can progress monitor the students, because MCAS is one-time event. So I appreciate you comment on that, because our students are not just numbers, they're human beings, and we want to make sure that they are learning the skills to be ready for a global world.
One more try on the video or no?
I would be, no. Shall we one more time? What?
For some reason, it's not.
And I cannot sign in.
No, it's just.
With, so I can't share it from here. That's
because it's.
Can you just try opening up, clicking on the open button and see what that?
I'm trying to do it from my phone, but that is an amazing video.
Let me call them.
If you click the request access, send it back to the person.
Yes, and I have access to it, but no internet. James Valenti, here we go.
I got it.
Open.
That looks like it's gonna play, no, it's just downloading.
People
So
are
it's gonna be slow.
anxious, they cannot wait to watch this video.
Okay.
But we can't access it.
Yeah.
It says you need access, Google Drive.
Send it directly to
Send it directly to
Jen Spatafora.
Spatafora.
So jspatafora@maldenps.org.
jspatafor@maldenps.org. Send it directly to her.
There you go. And I put it on
You're the man. Everybody's in the chamber.
We love you, Jim.
All right.
And the team is here. We have to see it. No, we have to watch it. We have to watch it.
Yeah, going forward, just send them to Jen. You just got access.
All right.
Should say you have access. All right, stand by, Jen. Bingo. You hear that, Jim? I never get that. Good job. All right, I'll see you. Bye.
All right.
Magic works.
Hi, my name is Tamara Lawrence, and I'm the principal here at the Malden Early Learning Center. At the Malden Early Learning Center, we are dedicated to development of Malden's youngest scholars. Here you will find a loving, caring group of staff members who are dedicated to seeing your child develop to their greatest potential. Don't judge us by the parking lot, because we know that parking lot can be crazy, but judge us by how all the smiles that your children leave with every day and the excitement they have of coming to school. We love, love, love to educate our students, and we love to impact them, because not only are we impacting them, they are impacting us. And we just love the ELC. It's the best place to be.
Hi, I'm Miss Noel. I'm an integrated preschool teacher here at the Malden Early Learning Center, and I love working for Malden Public Schools because firstly, I'm a Maldonian. I have a long line of family members that went to Malden Public Schools, including my grandfather, so being able to serve Malden's children is really special to me. I also love that I'm able to be with such a young group of children. I get to meet so many personalities every school year and watch their personalities grow. And also really awesome is to see the beautiful friendships that develop in my classroom and how kind they are to one another. So being with such a young group that still have so much innocence is really awesome to see.
Hi, I'm Marina Apostolou, and I have been working at the ELC for 7 years. And I stay here because I absolutely love the diverse population, not only of the students, but of the staff, the different cultures that are represented, the different personalities that are represented. And on top of that, it's the most collaborative environment I have ever worked in. The supports from everywhere, other teachers, the principal, the service providers, the BCBAs. It is such a caring and collaborative environment, and everyone really is there to help make our students do better and have a better experience. And I just really love being able to do that here.
All right, that was worth the wait. All right, everyone, so moving on, I don't see anything under subcommittee reports and discussions, nor under motions and resolutions, so we're now at the personal privilege part of our meeting. Left to right, let's start with Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a shout out, first off, to the Ferryway PTO. They had a family fun night the other night in which the chairman gave out 300+ hot dogs without dropping any, which in and of itself is an improvement, Gary. Thank you. PTO meeting is this Wednesday, the 4th. It's a Zoom one, and they'll be electing offices. So if you're interested in joining, just go to Ferryway School PTO, and the link will be there. Scholastic Book Fair starts the 17th and runs through the 20th. The Original Works fundraiser starts on the 25th, and that will run through the 31st, with the last day to submit orders on November 1st. Excuse me. And because of the election kerfuffle, they will have their the PTO will have their November 1st meeting as well, too. And there is a craft fair on Saturday, November 4th at the Ferryway. If you're interested, call the Ferryway PTO. It's $25 for a table if you're interested. If not, show up on the 4th and spend some money. It's a nice little fundraiser. And last but not least is the Election Day bake sale. So if you're hungry and you want to stop by the Ferryway, I'm sure the other schools are doing it too, but stop by and partake. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Drummey. Mr. Bernard. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just first, because I would be remiss in not honoring the members of my family, some of my neighbors that have gone through breast cancer. I just want to remind everyone that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Just take a second, realize there's people out there that go and have, that are going through a struggle, might need help, just to go and be a little kinder and nicer to those people. And I would appreciate that. And now on to actual school announcements here. Today is also National Custodian Appreciation Day. We want to make sure that we go and over the next week, because it's a little late for today, but make sure you go and you thank the people that are making sure that our schools are clean and sanitized. And then some announcements for the Salem Wood. Tomorrow is an early release, we've already announced that. On October 16th is the PTO meeting. There's a new Salem Wood PTO. It's going to be a hybrid meeting. I think they are going and working towards actually getting a website up, so as soon as I have that information, I'll put it out on my Facebook page. Save the date on October 21st. There's the K-4 Fall Fest from 11 to 1 on October 21st. I don't have a date on. There's going to be an upcoming Title I family event. I will go and get more information out on that. And then the Scholastic Book Fair will be going from Monday, October 30th to Friday, November 3rd. So save up your pennies and go and get your kids reading. And that is all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For some updates for events going on at the Linden, they are hosting a Tiger Trot fundraiser. That started on Monday, September 25th, and that runs until October 13th. At the Halfway Point, the school is participating in the Walk and Roll to School, which is on Wednesday, October 4th. And this is to encourage families and faculty to walk or bike to school. On Friday, the 13th, they will be hosting the Tiger Trot Fall Fest from 6 till 8. And that one, students will enjoy a trot around the Linden campus before a dance and pizza party. And that is where the PTO will be announcing the teacher, grade, classroom, and individual prizes from the fundraiser. And at the Early Learning Center on October 5th, it is their first PTO meeting. And October 21st, which is a Saturday, from 1 to 3, the ELC will be having an Oktoberfest.
Thank you, Ms. Rose Zyberg. Ms. Spatafor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Busy month at BB, so tomorrow, because it's a half day, this is a great event. BB PTO is hosting a fundraiser at Sky Zone Everett from 3 to 8 p.m. Just mention BB PTO when buying a 90-minute jump pass, and BB PTO will receive funds and your kids will get tired from bouncing around. BB's also hosting, the PTO is hosting a fun run on October 15th. All of the details for that is on the BB PTO Facebook page, and members up here will receive an email from the BB PTO on how you can join and participate. There is a BB PTO meeting on October 18th. We've talked about the half day, no school next Monday. BB School Site Council meeting, 5 p.m. on October 25th. And then, I have a lot here. Myself with Counselor Linehan and the BBPTO will be hosting Pumpkins on the Plaza, Saturday, October 21st from 12 to 2. So come pick out a pumpkin, get your face painted, participate in the pet contest. So if I see any cats with costumes, it's usually dogs, but who knows? And then also the Maplewood Halloween Festival. This was sent to me to announce as well. Salem Wood School Field House on Sunday, October 29th from noon to 3 p.m. Lots of Halloween fun. Give me 1 second, I'm hopping over to Forestdale because we lost a Ward 5 counselor for a little bit. So we have, this week the PTO is helping facilitate our first book fair of the year. The schedule has been shared with families and purchases can be made in person or online, so check out the forestdalepto.com page for more information. And then families, please make sure to check your email to make sure you're subscribed to Mr. Weldye's Falcon Family Flyer for important news and updates from Forestdale. And lastly, they just would like to send a special thank you to Rich, Dave, Mary, and Nick on National Custodian Appreciation Day. The Forestdale feels very lucky to have you on our team. And that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Spatafora. We'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Drummey, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummey? Yes. Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spatafora? Yes. Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Gray? Yes. Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose Iber? Yes. Mayor Christensen?
Yes. School committee is hereby adjourned.